Hello, and as you can see from my shirt, I'm back. I decided to go ahead and finish this module and one more module of the chapter before Monday, and I'll get these loaded up for you so you can watch them over the weekend. But other cells of the epidermis, which is where we left off for the last time, you have dendritic cells. These are also called the cells of Langerhans. They're found in the stratum spinosum. They are phagocytic cells, which means they are cells of the immune system. Phagocytic cells are cells that have the capability of engulfing and consuming other cells. They protect the skin and deeper tissues from pathogens. You have Merkel cells, which are cells scattered through the stratum basale. These are the cells that have the sensory receptors. They're associated with the small neurons of the dermis. These are the ones that detect light, touch, and discriminate shapes and textures. Again, when I was talking about my wife finding a dime or a nickel in her change purse, or finding a lipstick or a chapstick in her purse, these are the cells using. You have large numbers of these in your fingertips, on your lips, and at the base of your hairs. Um, you have melanocytes found in the stratum basale. These are the ones that produce melanin. This is the pigment-producing skin. And again, the pigment-producing cells within the skin, they range from an orangey red color to brown to black. And again, your skin tone is a result of not only the amount of melanin you have, but also the variety or the type of melanin that you have. As I mentioned earlier before, you have two types of skin. There's thick skin and thin skin. Again, you have that structure function principle where the skin is made the way it is so it can do the job it has to do, and it can do the job it has to do because of the way it is made. Um, the palms of the hands and soles of the feet are subject to a great deal of mechanical stress. Remaining regions of the skin are not so subject to as much stress. So the difference in function and exposure to stress have led to thick skin and thin skin. Thick skin is about as thick as a paper towel. Contains all 5 epidermal layers. A very thick stratum corneum. There are no hair follicles found in thick skin, but there are many sweat glands. As every young teenage boy knows, when you've got that certain young lady that's sitting across the classroom from you and you want to go talk to her, your hands always get very sweaty. Thin skin covers the areas of the body not subject to as much mechanical stress, basically everywhere else. It's about as thin as a sheet of printer paper. Only contains 4 layers. There is no stratum lucidum, so you can almost bet there will be a question on your next exam. Which of the following layers would you expect to find in thick skin? Stratum lucidum. Which of the following layers would you not expect to find in thin skin? Stratum lucidum. Each layer is thinner than those of thick skin, so each one of the individual layers. And in thin skin, there are numerous hairs, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands present. Everybody, well, no, not everybody, but lots of us have calluses. These are additional layers of stratum corneum, which can form in thick skin or thin skin, and is response to repetitive pressure. Most of us, when we think about calluses, we think about hands where we've been, raking leaves, or we're doing something repetitive like that. You build the calluses up here. One of the most common places people are getting calluses now is on their elbows. Why are you getting calluses on your elbows? Because you've got your elbows sitting on the chair arm of your chair while you're playing on your keyboard, and you're wiggling back and forth. Lots of folks are developing, especially people who work in offices and in office settings, are getting calluses on their elbows. And then there is the thick skin and the thin skin. Here's the thick skin, the dermis, the stratum, different layers. Here's the thin skin, and you'll notice no stratum lucidum listed. The stratum corneum is listed, but the stratum lucidum is not. All right, the dermis, the underlying tissue, the tissue found underneath the epidermis. The dermis is highly vascular layer deep to the epidermis, provides a blood supply for the epidermis, contains sensory receptors for both thermo and tactile, anchors the epidermis in place. The dermis is composed of 2 distinct layers with two types of connective tissues. There is the papillary layer, which is the thinner, the more superficial of the two layers, composed of loose connective tissue primarily, but it also has some specialized collagen fibers, and it extends into the epidermal basement membrane, anchors the epidermis to the dermis. The dermal layer, the dermal papillae, are tiny projections at the surface of the papillary layer where it contacts the epidermis. There are blood vessels there extending into the superficial part of the dermal papillae. These tiny blood vessels allow oxygen and nutrients to diffuse into the dermis. The tactile or Meissner corpuscles also can be found in the dermal papillae. These are sensory receptors that respond to light touch stimuli, and they are more numerous where sensation is the primary function, such as, again, the skin, the lips, the face, and the external genitalia. Lindy, my 3-year-old, loves for me, while she's laying down, to sit there and do like this, to just gently rub on her face. We call it tickle scratching, and she will lay down many times when she's getting ready to go to bed, and she's trying not to, she doesn't want to lay down and go to sleep right now. She'll ask me to tickle scratch, and that's what she wants me to do. And that's those Meissner corpuscles, which are detecting that, both in my fingertips and in her face. The reticular layer is deep to the papillary layer. It is a thicker layer, separates the dermis from the hypodermis. Again, what is the thing about the hypodermis? Not part of the skin, that's right. It's mostly composed of dense, irregular connective tissue, has largely irregularly arranged collagen bundles. The purpose of the collagen bundle is to strengthen the dermis, prevent traumatic energy from damaging deeper tissues, and it does contain some elastic fibers, which allows the dermis to return to its original shape after stretching. The reticular layer is also rich in proteoglycans. These draw water into the ground surface that keeps the skin firm and hydrated. Again, this is the area in older people that start to become dehydrated, or even younger people who's dehydrated and their skin will tint. You raise the skin up and it stays elevated for a long time. It's this area of the skin that has lost its water supply. The Pacinian corpuscles are sensory receptors found within the reticular layer. They respond primarily to pressure and vibration. The reticular layer is also where you're going to find many blood vessels, your sweat glands, the roots of the hairs, the sebaceous glands, and the adipose tissue, aka the fat layer, is also found in that region. There's the two layers. There's the dermal papillae. This is the epidermis. You see the little finger-like projections go down into the papillary layer. That's how they interlock together. And this is the reticular layer here. There's a laminated corpuscle. I don't see a Messinian corpuscle anywhere. Maybe there. It's not a real good slide. Oh, there it is right there. I'm sorry, tactile corpuscle. Skin markings are small lines in the epidermis created by the interaction between the dermis and the epidermis, best seen in thick skin. Dermal ridges, area where the dermal papillae are more prominent in the presence of thick collagen fibers. The dermal ridges are what we're looking at when we look at fingerprints. Dermal ridges indent the overlying epidermis to create what are called, again, epidermal ridges, which enhance the gripping ability of the hands and feet. They occur in characteristic patterns, loops, arches, and whorls. They are genetically determined to be unique for each person. Sweat pores open along these ridges, leaving a thin film or fingerprint on things touched with the fingers. It's the oils that are left behind that the forensic technologists can pick up with their fingerprint powder. There's classic fingerprint, magnified. It's a scanning electron microscope that is magnified many times more than 9. It's probably 9,000 times. But there are the sweat pores. All of those little dots you see, those are the sweat pores. There's the epidermal ridges. There's the dermal ridges, and you see how they're creating the loops and whorls and arches of a typical fingerprint. Some other skin markings, reticular, where the reticular layer is responsible for certain markings. Tension or cleavage lines, indentations where gaps form between collagen bundles. Flexure lines occur where deep creases in the body, such as around joints, where the reticular layer is tightly anchored to structural deeper structures. And there's those lines that you can see. Again, these aren't as visible generally, but you do see that they are important for surgical incisions. They're made, surgical incisions are made crossways. You don't want to make them up and down if you can avoid it. Make the lines up and down, they don't tend to heal as well because the tension is going this way. The tension was going, you make your surgical incision. Surgical incisions made with them heal faster with less scarring. You have to make it across. You see, you get the scarring, more scarring is involved. So we try to make all our surgical incisions where they can, going along with the grain. I think I said that exactly opposite a few moments ago, and I apologize. But we want the attempt is to make them with the tension lines rather than across. There are times when this is just, you have to do it that way. Skin wrinkles, the hallmark of aging, due to an age-related decrease in collagen fibers, elastic fibers, proteoglycans, and adipose tissue. It reduces the skin's firmness, hydration, and recoilability. They tend to be deeper in area of repetitive muscle movement, such as the forehead, around the eyes, and the mouth. Things that can make wrinkles worse and make them appear earlier. Overexposure to UV light, cigarette smoking can lead to early formation of wrinkles. The appearance can be minimized by Botox injections. Again, we mentioned earlier, Botox temporarily paralyzes the facial muscles, therefore causing the skin to appear smoother. Fillers, things like adipose tissue and collagen or proteoglycans, can be injected into the wrinkles. Topical creams claim to reduce the appearance of wrinkles. They have little to no effect because what they're doing is they're simply rehydrating the skin for 10 or 15 minutes, and then as soon as those topicals that you've added have been absorbed deep into the skin, the wrinkles come right back. Ways to avoid these. Avoid the sun when you can. If you can't, use sunscreen. Make sure you are properly hydrated. Avoid smoking, and you can delay the appearance of wrinkles. I think you can all look at me. I do not have the typical wrinkles of a almost 60-year-old man. And while I have not avoided the sun in my early life, I was a crazy user of sunscreen. I used probably more sunscreen than the typical lifeguard at the beach. I have always been a massive drinker. That whole thing about when we were going to school about drink 8 glasses of water a day, I drink 8 glasses of water, which you would say, but 8-ounce glasses, that's 64 ounces of water a day. I probably drink that, shortly before or after noon. I had a father who was a smoker. I grew up hating the smell of cigarette smoke. I still hate the smell of cigarette smoke. If I'm in a room with 15 people and one of them is a smoker, I can almost always find the smoker given, a few minutes in an enclosed space. So, skin wrinkles. Now, I am going to stop there. We will pick up Monday with skin pigmentation, module 5.4. Everyone, have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday morning, 9 a.m.